we have been saying in Seasonal Discovery for a long time that when are they going to fix the classes? When are the classes going to hit that intended spot where everything works? Every time somebody complained about shamans or paladins, Blizzard would come, well, not Blizzard actually, the people in the comments that apparently work for Blizzard for free would say, no Medina, you don't understand, the classes are not finished yet, you need more runes, you need this, you need gear, you need this and that, and that's when everything is gonna make sense. Well, guess what? This is the last phase of Seasonal Discovery. This is the final state Seasonal Discovery is gonna get, and that should raise the question, are the classes finally fixed? Welcome to the DPS simulation. This is a project made by Lucenia and Momo, and I am sure there's other people here. Lucenia is the lady that works on Warcraft Sims. Yeah, this person right here, and then there's Momo, this guy. I am not aware of who this guy is, but like he's one of the developers. They have a project, they have been doing it in collaboration with Blizzard for a while. I do not know if they are still in collaboration with Blizzard, but they just simulate every spec with the gear that we know they are gonna get and the set bonuses and everything like that, and they add up how much DPS they think every class is gonna do. Well, the results for phase 8, the final phase, are out, and it is quite a funny video to make, and that's why I wanted to make it, because if you can see right at the top right here, the Retribution Paladin is clocking at an insane 9170 DPS. Now here's the thing, and here's what you gotta remember. A simulation is not reality, it's a model. This is assuming a perfect seal twisting rotation, which is not realistic. I don't think there's people who cannot nail a perfect rotation like that. We are gonna go over a lot of those little questions in a second here. Same with Affliction. Perfect rotation of the dots is very difficult for a human player, pretty much impossible. You can get pretty close, but that's we are not going to see 8800 DPS from an Affliction Warlock. But it should be an interesting baseline, the theoretical damage we are going to be able to make this phase. As I said, the Retribution Paladin is at number 1 with 9170 DPS. Second is the Affliction Warlock with 8800, and it should realistically get somewhere pretty close to that. Now the Paladin in particular, it is just overtuned as hell. Every rune is overtuned as hell. People have been complaining about the hero classes, they call them, in Seasonal Discovery. The Shaman and the Paladin get favorite treatment constantly by Blizzard, and they will never be allowed to be bad. And this is the ultimate example of that, with the Retribution Paladin projected to be the most powerful DPSer in the game. Now the Affliction Warlock, and very close, you can see right there on number 5 is going to be the Destruction Shadow Vault Warlock. Why are they so high? Well, they introduce crits on their dots, and the Warlock in theory with the runes, I said it many times before, in theory the Warlock is one of the hardest scaling classes in the game, and we never got to see it because in vanilla you hit Nax Ramas and you're done, you don't get any more gear, but now we are in post Nax Ramas with all the insane gear, and Warlocks are finally reaching their full potential, which is absolute freaking insanity. On number 4 is the Feral Druid. The Feral Druid is also one of those very highly scaling classes, as it needed a lot of crit to come online, but now that they got crit cap, the Feral Druid is actually doing pretty insane damage and scaling very well, which is pretty cool to see. The attack speed and the bleeding, it all exponentially scales of itself. The Feral Druid has been on a really solid spot for 3 tiers, that pretty much from the time I left to now, the Feral Druid has been like very much at the top of the list in every tier, and that's good. I think, because I know people are saying, people complain about the Feral Druid a lot. I think they have to make the Feral Druid broken. That's crazy. Why would I say that? Because if the Feral Druid is not very good, or like insanely good, people are not gonna want to play it. And the Feral Druid with the global Wind Fury is pretty much mandatory for a raid. So if a lot of people do not play Feral Druids, people's enjoyment of the game is gonna suffer a lot. They don't wanna repeat that mistake with the Feral Druid, and I can understand. The Warrior is number 5. And I assure you, these numbers do not reflect reality. The warrior will most likely hit many, if not most, of the top 100 DPS charts come the release, because perfect gameplay on a feral druid or a warlock or a retribution paladin is very difficult. But okay, let's talk about the fury and the dual wield builds. I am gonna make a guide on the dual wield and the fury builds in a bit. Okay, I am still trying to figure everything out. I've been gone for a while, since Blackwing Lair basically. I am leveling a character in the Alliance because all my friends quit and they went Alliance. Guys like doing IQ 20 every lockout and stuff. I'm catching up, okay? But in theory, the Fury 200 build is doing 8510 damage, and the Fury dual wield is doing 8500 flat. So there is a 10 DPS difference between both of them. That doesn't tell the whole story, and that's what I want to talk about. Perfect gameplay of 200 Fury is pretty much impossible because it relies on perfectly timing your stance dancing and such, and that is not something you can perfectly do. You also rely on a bunch of random procs, which are very inconsistent, but Fury dual wield is pretty brain dead. It is, I would dare say, more brain dead than vanilla. It is more bodons. There is more bodons for the dual wield Fury Warrior. What you got? You got Whirlwind, you got Slam, you got Overpower, Bloodthirst. You got a little more bodons. The thing is, with all the new world buffs and all the insane gear that we got being crit cap basically the entire time, every swing of your offhand is going to give you like 60 rage easily. So what happens is, even if you Q Heroic Strike the entire time, you are always rage capping. The reason that people get a stance dance and the reason that Overpower is still viable is not because Overpower is like this super broken ability, because it's a decent ability, but no. The thing is, you need to change your stance just to drop below 60 rage so you can proc your enrage rune that gives you the double whirlwind attack. You need to waste rage just to go below 60. That's also why sudden death and the execute proc is so good, but that's for a different video. What I am trying to say is that dual wield, you don't have to worry about your rage. You have infinite rage the entire time. Fury 200, even if you do a quadrillion damage, if you do Heroic Strike, you do not generate any rage on your entire swing. So that's a problem. So whatever theoretical damage you can see in Fury dual wield, it is very, very close to reality, and 200 is not. And that's why I think Fury dual wield has the potential to pretty much be number one this tier, like every other tier. After that we got the Fire Destruction Warlock, which once again very exponential class with all the 30% haste bonus and all that stuff. Demonology trailing close second. I think they are also going for a Fire Shadow hybrid. And then we got the Shadow Priest with 8000. Now that's a complete shocker to me, and I am not sure what's up with that. Like, if somebody could explain to me how the Shadow Priest works now, I got no idea. Then we got the Enhancement Shaman with 7950. Then we got the Enhancement Shaman with 7950. Now the Enhancement Shaman is another very exponential class because their Wind Fury procs give you 2 attacks instead of 1. Problem is, unlike the Warrior, they cannot do a physical ability every global. They do not have that luxury, so they cannot proc Wind Fury as quickly and consistently as a Warrior. And that's the problem for them, and that's what holds them back. And then we got the Boomkin, which is pretty much above average with an 8000 DPS right there. All the Boomkins that love complaining, they just love complaining, but here they are, sleeper, eating really good. Can't wait to see them complain again. So as you can see, the average across all the specs is 7672, and the average is what I want to talk about, because if you look at the average, this is a great measure of actual balance. This is smack dab in the middle, then we got the top and we got the bottom, which is a bunch of meme specs like Pure Frost or Exodin, Exorcism Paladin, or Backstab Rogue, which is a PvP spec. But I want to look at a more or less legitimate, serious spec. I would say Spellfrost is a serious spec, even though it is not good. It is a actual non-meme spec, something that you are actually supposed to bring into a raid, and you can see it is doing 6620. If we compare that to the average, it is doing about 14% less damage than the average. And now if we look at the top, I will not put the Retribution Paladin. It is not realistic. As I said, this is a theoretical thing. We are gonna go for the Affliction Warlock, 8880. It is doing about 16% more damage than the average. That's the metric you wanna see, okay? 16% from the top to the average and 16% from the average to the bottom. This is pretty on par with retail. I think in retail it is about 10% 100% except BFA. They do not let Ion Hasicostas near the calculator anymore. So after all this, what was it, 18 months, Blizzard has finally turned Classic WoW into a retail-like balance. This is nothing short of an achievement. It is not easy to turn a broken freaking game into, well, a broken freaking game that has balanced numbers. We are never going to hit actual perfect balance, but it doesn't matter. This is a level of variance that people can deal with. This is a level of variance that if I look at a Frost Mage that has decent gear, I am not gonna get mad at him. I would be okay with taking him. It is not like in previous phases where some specs like Frost Mage were pretty much unplayable. It is really freaking funny that the one phase we are getting where everything is balanced and then the game ends. Could have been a lot more convenient if you just did it from the start, wouldn't it? However, this should speak pretty good for the future on Classic Plus, because after all these hurdles and struggles, they eventually figured out how to make a class. And if they figured out how to make a class, well, maybe we can get a proper classes in Classic Plus. I would be very happy to look at that. In the case of SoD, they had to put a lot of band-aids into the situation, basically putting sanctified gear, which is going to be present in Scarlet Raid, by the way. If you look at the data mines for the new tier, they are all sanctified. Well, sanctified basically is like a tier set bonus that is not a tier set bonus, but every piece of sanctified you got like 37% more damage in the raid, only inside the raid, and that's because otherwise the power creep would be so insane that you could just one-shot everything outside of the raid. But they basically had to make a super broken exclusive tier set to force people to be out of their old tier sets, because the classes were absolutely broken from the other tier sets. I do not see a way they could ever balance tier 1 warrior, for example, or stuff like that. But yes, even though they slapped the band-aid into the situation, they eventually figured it out. And that's what actually matters here. They learned over a year and a half, they have finally learned to do math. And by that, I mean using the simulation technology that these people have made for free. That's all they had to do in the first place. I am glad they reached out to the Sims people to get this figured out. And man, I will say it again, like Lucenia, Momo, the developers of the wowsims, they deserve so much freaking credit. Their work is really freaking important for what they are doing for the game. One question I want to make to you though is, yes, the numbers are reasonable, the numbers are in a pretty healthy state if this goes live. Are you okay with how your class plays? Do you feel the classes in Season of Discovery that you play are more fun than they used to be? Do you feel that it's a satisfying experience, or do you feel that your class is a bunch of janky nonsense? Because if anything, that's a lot more important, I think, than the actual numbers, but who knows? Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.